Is Battlefield 6 already falling off? This conversation has been popping up a little bit recently, namely in the past week or so under the comment section of a few of my videos. I've seen a few Reddit posts, and a lot of creators on Twitter actually starting to chime in, noticing basically Battlefield 6 is winding down past that hype release phase, but I think it's surprising people just how many players have already stopped playing Battlefield 6 or maybe have just taken a little break. People are posting Steam charts basically predicting the doom of the game, which is of course a classic. In this video, we're going to be talking about Season 1, how I thought it was. We're going to be going over the Steam charts, and I might be reminding some people just how well Battlefield 6 is still doing, even if the player count has dipped below people's expectations that might be misplaced anyway. Let's start going over this stuff. If you enjoy Battlefield 6 and want to keep up with the game, this is the channel for you. Hit the sub button, hit the like button, and thank you so much for you guys hitting 116,000 subs. Absolutely crazy. And for those of you asking, yes, I will have more weapons and tips videos coming soon. I have seen your comments. Getting directly into things, I'm just going to look at the Steam charts, which everyone seems to be posting when talking about this topic, and then we'll go over a few different opinions, and I'll give my extrapolation on this whole thing. So if you take a look at the charts, right, I just screenshot this at the time I'm recording this video. Battlefield 6 sitting at 82,000 players in the evening. It's about 11 p.m. where I live right now, hit a 24-hour peak of 120,000, but of course, this graph is set to the maximum it can go, so you see the release, then the number 1 right above October there is Season 1, and then the PF over November is the free-to-play weekend. There is no surprise that there was a jump in players when Season 1 came out, but it did drop off faster than I would have anticipated for Season 1, and we'll be talking about Season 1 and whether or not they dropped the ball with it after I talk about other things with this chart, namely the free-to-play weekend, which is the PF above November. Very interesting that the free-to-play weekend basically didn't affect the player count at all. That's very interesting. Does that mean the interest for the game was essentially just not there for the free-to-play weekend? Or does it mean that everyone that was interested already bought the game and therefore didn't really have to be enticed by the free-to-play weekend? The answers to this question are basically impossible to get. The takeaways for me, just from looking at these numbers, are that Battlefield 6 had an unbelievable reception. In fact, Tactical Brit on Twitter pointed out that Battlefield 6 was apparently the best-selling FPS game in the last 3 years. The player count definitely reflects that, especially for a Battlefield game. Looking at the all-time peak at over 740,000 concurrent players just on PC, not even including console, that is ludicrous for a Battlefield game. In fact, I don't think we've ever touched numbers like that ever before. Adding to this commentary is Battle Nonsense, who many of you will know. He points out that Battlefield 6 actually had a ton of help with the positive reception. He points to the return to Battlefield Modern Era after 12 years, Call of Duty fatigue, essentially players being tired with the Call of Duty franchise, and Black Ops 7 being, well, Black Ops 7, Battlefield 2042's absolute train wreck, and of course, GTA 6's delay. All of this helped Battlefield 6 to steal that moment of release, steal the attention from everybody, which of course increased the amount of players that played the game to a stratospheric level. And I think that stratospheric level really set some unrealistic expectations for people. I think a lot of people expected Battlefield to be like the #1 FPS this year, completely untouchable, just dominating hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of concurrent players every single day. But I think some people got lost in the reality that #1, some people just can't fucking play the game all the time. #2, some people just want to play the game a little bit and then quit. #3, Battlefield is never going to be a game that has millions of daily concurrent players, and that's completely okay, because Battlefield was never going to go from being completely irrelevant with Battlefield 2042 to being the #1 FPS game with no competition in sight with Battlefield 6. Battlefield is a niche game. It's not necessarily as accessible as something as Call of Duty. You ask a bunch of people on the street to name a first-person shooter, they are very likely to say Call of Duty. It is that mainstream. Battlefield, while still mainstream, is definitely more of a weird one. It's a 32v32 combined arms game with a bunch of tanks and helicopters. And it's very important to point out that Battlefield traditionally has always really had a massive fall off after release. I will point out Battlefield 1. those of you that played Battlefield 1 at launch will know the player count for that game actually kind of dropped off the face of a cliff shortly after launch. That isn't to say Battlefield 1 died, it's just Battlefield's player count heavily dropping is kind of tradition, regardless of how well the game is received globally. It just sort of happens. Now, do I think that Battlefield could have done a better job with retaining the players via Season 1 content? Probably. I think if Season 1 was a little better in terms of content, more players would have stuck around if it was more interesting. We have to look at the content of Season 1. Blackwell Fields being the first thing ever added to Battlefield 6. Blackwell Fields, I think we can all agree on, is an abysmal map and was a terrible start to Season 1. Eastwood, the second new map, was better than Blackwell Fields, but it still wasn't something we'll be talking about a decade later. Like, oh my god, remember when Eastwood came out? Like, no, it's not on that level. It's about a 6.5 out of 10 map. And there were other pieces of content within Season 1. We got a battle pass, an event, some new weapons, and the big one, which is RedSec's free-to-play drop. Before I cover RedSec, I just want to really point out that I have always believed that 2 maps per season with a battle pass and a few weapons is just simply not enough content to really tide Battlefield players over. Battlefield is a game that requires quantity and quality in terms of content drops, in my opinion. I don't think 2 maps is enough when it comes to a content drop per season, because yes, you can point out all the other things in the season, but when you point out the most important, impactful pieces of content, it is always going to be the maps. And compared to previous Battlefield games that had premium and all this stuff, I mean, 2 maps per season is really pathetic. I think Battlefield 1 had a DLC that featured 6 maps. That's going to tie people over. People are going to be interested in that for a far longer period of time. But jumping back over to RedSec, it was very clear from the start that Battlefield's core player base was never interested in a battle royale, but of course that's not why EA made RedSec. EA made RedSec to attract free-to-play player attention and to, I guess, compete with Warzone. Were they successful? Well, according to this post by The Game Business, they have a source from Ampere that stated Battlefield 6's RedSec had a muted launch. The main game proved to be a strong performer. The number of Battlefield 6 players increased by just 3 million players as a result of this free-to-play game mode. So, RedSec increased Battlefield's player count by apparently 3 million unique players. Not 3 million all at once, of course, but 3 million people tried Battlefield RedSec as a result of its release. Need I remind you, the goal player target for Battlefield 6, as stated by, I believe, EA, was 100 million, and I guarantee you, EA is not very happy with the performance of RedSec right now. I think they viewed RedSec as their live service sort of free-to-play ticket to mass market popularity, and it's not going too well. RedSec isn't dead by any means. You can still play it just fine. It's just, I think the BR craze is past, guys, and I've said this a million times on previous videos. Regardless of the BR phase being, you know, long in the tooth, they were always going to put a battle royale in Battlefield 6. It was inevitable. So the result of RedSec isn't necessarily shocking or surprising in any way, shape, or form. So to round off my thoughts about Season 1, I firmly believe that they could have done a far better job at capitalizing on Battlefield 6's hype if the game simply just had better content and perhaps just maybe one more seasonal map drop. Now, with all that being said, is Battlefield 6 falling off? No. You'd have to be a fucking idiot, just to be completely honest with you. I vividly and reluctantly remember Battlefield 2042's Steam player count dropping below 2,000, and if memory serves me correctly, even below 1,000 players on Steam at some points. So, the fact that people are calling Battlefield 6's 120,000 player 24-hour peaks a fall-off, that's fine with me. I'll take that, because I'll tell you one thing, I haven't had a single issue queuing into a game. I can't say the same for Battlefield 2042. So to round this entire video off, even though the player count has significantly dropped since the massive peaks of launch, Battlefield 6 still represents a return to form for the Battlefield franchise, and a return to relevancy. Battlefield was fucking irrelevant. People weren't talking about it at all, except for weird people that make YouTube videos like me. But now, Battlefield is back in the conversation. We have a good base Battlefield to work off of and to improve upon, and yes, it has massive issues. I made a 30-minute video detailing a bunch of the issues just the other day, so don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say Battlefield 6 is, without fault. There are many faults, but I just think that Battlefield 6 has a way larger pool of players that are interested in it and will be around to try Season 2 and Season 3 and all the seasons this game may receive in the future. So there you have it. There's my thoughts on this entire thing. Obviously, the game will be entering a bit of a downturn here with the holiday season. Developers tweeting they're going on vacation for over a month in some cases. I fully expect there to be basically nothing going on for Battlefield 6 until mid-January, maybe early February. So be sure to let me know your thoughts on this in the comments section, and if you watch this point, let me know if you still play Battlefield 6. That would be interesting to know. Maybe I should have said this up front. Fucking stupid Enders recording this fucking voiceover. But if you enjoy this content, hit the like button, hit the sub button, and swing by a stream. I stream every single day at twitch.tv/Enders and this YouTube channel. All links in the description. Join the Discord, follow me on Instagram, and thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.